Hi, my name's Ryan. I'm the developer and founder of Vape-Jet, and this is the demo video for the Vape-Jet 4.0 system. Just have a couple slides, and then we'll jump right into the machine demo itself. So, talking about the hardware a little bit, let's go over the fluid path, since that is the most important part about a fluid dispensing system, is how it handles fluid. So on the Vape-Jet 4.0, everything starts from this stainless steel reservoir. You can see in this picture, we have a 1 liter reservoir, and that has a compression fitting as well as a quick connect for the nitrogen, which we'll talk about later. After that, we have the heated pump enclosure. This enclosure houses our pump, our valve, the upper and lower fluid lines, and a few other things you'll see in a later slide. This entire enclosure is heated and has its own heater for keeping the temperature inside consistent. Inside, there's an additional heater, and this heats the needle, which is the last point of contact for the fluid right before it flows into the cartridge. So that has an independently controllable heater as well. So far, we have the reservoir, the enclosure, and the needle. Each one of these systems has its own independent heater that is configured through the software, and we'll show you where those are configured later. On the outside of the tray, you'll see we have the overflow container, and that is used for calibrating and setting up the machine, as well as hovering the needle over when it's not in use in order to collect any drips to make cleanup easier and to reclaim the product. The entire enclosure that all these things are housed in is positively pressured. What that means is it's always going to be higher pressure than the atmosphere outside the system, and it's always going to be pulling clean air in past an air filter. It keeps dust down and it keeps contamination away from the cartridges. Here you see a close-up view of the machine vision camera. This is what allows the system to fill directly into the foam trays without using any jigs. And you'll see the view from that camera in real time later when we demo through the software. The enclosure camera is the second camera in the system. You'll also see that during the software demo, but that allows Vape-Jet's support techs to help the operator work through any issues they may encounter. And then finally, this entire platform moves up and down. The reason that's important is the system has one-touch control for changing between different hardware types. In other words, there's no physical adjustment needed between filling, say, a half-gram and a full-gram cartridge, or a regular 510 cartridge and an all-in-one pod style system. This platform is going to move up and down to accommodate different heights. And then the tray system is just set up to accept any foam tray that you put on it. The touch screen, which is at the very front of the screen, is what the operator will be interacting with. And when we go into the second part of this demo, and I'm showing you the interface, this is the actual interface that I'm showing you. Talking about the reservoir and the pump more in detail just for a moment before we go into the machine demo. It's 1 liter capacity. You see there's a pressure relief valve. That's in order if the operator were to over pressurize and set the regulator on the nitrogen too high. This provides a safety relief, so the system will relieve pressure from the valve rather than blowing out the sides. There is a gas quick connect. You see that right here. That is for connecting and disconnecting the nitrogen from the system. The compression fitting is how the oil leaves the reservoir and goes into the pump housing. We do use Viton gaskets, and there's a dip tube inside this reservoir, which runs to the very bottom corner, and there's a bevel etched into it so that we get the last little bit of oil. That's also why the reservoir is installed to the machine at an angle, so that the oil will naturally pool at the lowest corner. Finally, there's a heat wrap around it, which plugs into the system, and that's what keeps this under a consistent temperature. The pump we use is called the Hamilton PSD4. It is a pharmaceutical grade compounding pump. It is a syringe pump with a mechanical ceramic valve. That ceramic valve does hold pressure. So when we apply nitrogen pressure to the input side of things, this valve will prevent that pressure from going straight to the output. Both axes in our pump, both the syringe and the valve, use steppers and encoders. The reason that's important is we can detect when the pump has stalled, and then we can correct that action and finish out the pumping action without displaying an error or without pumping the incorrect amount of fluid. In other words, if the viscosity of the fluid is too high and the pump has been commanded to pump faster than what is physically possible, it'll slow itself down and finish the dispensing action so that every single cart is the exact correct filled amount. And then to go along with that, we are able to adjust the speeds of the pump. So to explain this a little bit better, let's talk about how the pump actually works. So the first thing we're going to do is load product into the system. So we add our product, we put the top cap on, and then we increase the nitrogen backfill pressure. That is going to prime the lines, and then that valve can move back and forth to select between the input and output ports to fill each cartridge. Once it's empty, we use that same nitrogen pressure to push the oil out of the system and reclaim it. To clean the system, we use those same exact processes. So here, you add your cleaning solution, you pressurize it. Pressurization automatically primes the lines. And then there's an auto clean process, which we'll show you in the software demo. But this auto clean process is going to run the cleaning solution through the system and then automatically dry it. So with all that being said, let's jump right into the software and show you how the system works. All right, let's go straight into the machine demo. So the first thing I'd like to point out is the interface that you're looking at right now is the same interface that you'll find on the touchscreen of the system. This is the interface that the operator is going to work with on a day-to-day basis. And the way we've laid out the software is to build in all the SOPs directly into the workflow of the machine. What I mean by that is we're going to come over here to the top, operation, and here are the steps that need to be done every day. You have to load product into the machine, you need to dispense, you need to unload, and then you need to clean the system out at the end of the day. So we're going to go through this in the logical order. We're going to, simulate loading oil into the machine, simulate dispensing with that oil, reclaiming all the oil that wasn't used in the process and what's left in the lines, and then cleaning out the system at the end of the day. So we'll start with load, and you'll notice every single one of these procedures is laid out in the same format. It displays all the information you need to know about that step. It brings in any buttons that you need to click during that process, and it provides it all in a wizard flow. So right here, you can see this profile that we're running right now is set up for the AVD demo, and we are going to dispense Blue Dream into AVD Easy Press cartridges. Right here, if you have a barcode scanner hooked up to the machine, you can scan in your metric batch ID, or you can just give it a unique internal identification number. Next thing, you want to tell the system exactly how much fluid you're loading into it so that we can keep track of how much fluid is left in it. I'm going to simulate loading 1/2 liter. You'll see after I type that in, our little animation here shows that we have 500 mils left. This is going to tell you the materials you need to complete this wizard. And again, it's going to bring any buttons that you need to click into the wizard itself. So it's saying I need to ensure that my camera is at the correct height. Earlier, you'll remember I said that this platform moves up and down to accommodate different height cartridges. This is where we set that up. So this is built into the profile. We'll hit focus. And you'll notice the platform is now moving down into position. We'll wait until that's done, and then we'll go on to the next step. All right, now that it's in position, we'll go on to the next step. And for the purposes of this demo, we're not going to pause and look at what each one of these screens says. What I really want to point out during this demo is that the SOP, along with, the materials, the tools, and everything else you need to do, is brought right in here to the instructions. So what these instructions are walking you through is how to install the reservoir into the system. It may seem like a lot of text now, but after you've done it once or twice, this process takes less than 60 seconds. It's telling you that you need to turn on all the heaters. You can see I already have my heaters on, but if I needed to turn them on, I could just click this button. It's telling me to pressurize my reservoir. So if you remember back to that animation, at this point, we've loaded fluid into the reservoir. Now we're going to pressurize it. And now you're going to prime the pump. Without spending too much time during the demo explaining exactly how to prime the pump, what I really want to point out is that the exact steps for doing it, along with the buttons that you have to click in this order, are brought right into the interface. Once I'm done loading oil into the machine, I'm going to hit finish. And the machine is going to say, do I want to proceed and dispense? Well, if I've just loaded oil into the machine, chances are I want to put that oil into cartridges. Hit proceed. And it took us to our dispense wizard. You can see it's just confirming, again, places to confirm. We've already focused our camera. Move to loading position. Again, anytime you have to click a button, it's brought into the wizard. And at this point, the operator would place the cartridges on the tray. I'm going to hit next since they're already there. And it's going to want me to do a sanity check. So it wants me to look at the machine and tell that the first cartridge is what the machine is currently hovering over. I already know that this is correct, but if I wanted to double check it, I could click there, and I can see, yes, I am looking at the bottom left corner of my tray. Again, it wants me to sanity check that it knows where the last cartridge is. So, yep, there is the top right-hand corner of my tray. I'm going to hit next. Move to drip container. So now, remember, it always pauses over the drip container in case there's a drip from the needle. Next. Now, this is the screen that your operator would be looking at for the rest of the dispense process. What that means is if they put another tray of identical hardware on the machine, they're just going to stay on this screen and hit the dispense button. I'm going to hit dispense, and you're going to see it line the system up. It's lining that tray up. And now it's moving over and reading each one of these cartridge locations and then placing the needle. You can see that machine vision system happening in real time here. We're measuring each center post and then adjusting where the machine will place the needle each time. Now, there's a couple advanced features at this point that can be enabled. For example, we can also measure the outer wall of the cartridge and determine the widest point between the center post and the outer wall, and insert the needle there. But for cartridges such as these, it's pretty simple and we don't have to enable those features. Okay. You'll see it gives you elapsed time as well as time remaining. And then once this process is complete, we'll be able to take a look at the report. So at this point, we'll just let it finish out. All right, now that it's done, if we wanted to run another tray, we could simply hit dispense and it would start back over. You don't need to do the sanity check of the first and last positions again. We hit finish. And it's going to ask us, do you want to restart the dispensing wizard? Perhaps dispense into a different type of hardware? Or do you want to unload at this point? We're going to hit unload so that we continue to work through the workflow. I'm going to switch camera views again. Move to drip container. Next. Now it's going to have you recover the fluid out of the reservoir. We do this by using the nitrogen pressure to push any remaining fluid that's still in these lines into this drip container. The way we do that is toggling this valve to a bypass mode, which connects the input port directly to the output port. Once that's done, we're going to want to turn off our reservoir. And you'll see it turned off right here. And then remove it from the system. For the purposes of this demo, I'm not going to remove it from the system, and we're just going to go straight into our cleaning wizard. So you can see after I've unloaded product from the machine, there's only two logical steps I need to take next. Either I'm going to load more product in, or I'm going to clean it and go home for the day. I'm going to go to cleaning wizard. And you can see again, it tells you materials that you need, along with all the buttons you need to accomplish the procedure. This walks you through inserting the cleaning solution into the reservoir, heating the cleaning solution, pressurizing the cleaning solution, priming the lines in the pump. Again, sounds like a lot. This process takes, at the end of the day, the clean in place process takes 15 minutes. Of that 15 minutes, only 5 minutes of it is interactive. The other 5 minutes is spent right here on the cleaning cycle. Once you hit this button, it's going to go into an automatic clean out cycle. It's going to get fluid into every part of the valve, every part of the syringe, and clean it out extremely well. Once it's done, you push out any of the remaining cleaning solution, again using the nitrogen. And then finally, the drying cycle. The drying cycle takes approximately 5 minutes, doesn't require any user interaction. You'll click this button, and it's going to use a combination of the heaters along with gas flow through the lines to completely dry the syringe, the valve, the lines, and the reservoir. Once you're done for the day, you hit finish, and you are ready to shut off the machine. That covers the daily operations and the daily operation wizards. Now let's talk about a few of the other features that are included with the Vape-Jet system. First of all, every single tray that is dispensed through the system is recorded in a report. I can click on one of these and you can see this is the one we just ran. If I were to click on this report, You get a readout of where all the cartridges were laid out. And the color here doesn't indicate if there was a problem with the cartridge or not. The color here is how far away from ideal were they placed in the foam. So as you know, the foams that these carts come in are not dimensionally accurate. They kind of wavy and they move all over the place. So this is an indication of how far out of place they were. You can get some more statistics about the filling process, along with what configuration, the average temperature of all the cartridges, the table speed. And then if you click onto any individual cartridge location, you will get all this information as well. Now, since we just ran this dispense process, the pictures aren't available yet, but about 5 or 10 minutes, these pictures will start populating, and you'll also get a picture of the cartridge before it was filled. Okay. Along with times, temperatures, and everything else. All this data is not just locked into the Vape-Jet system. You can hit the export button on any of these reports and it will download, and you can import that into whatever program you like. All this data, including all the pictures, are included in that export. Popping back over to configurations. So the machine does support different configurations. There's plenty of profile settings and advanced features that we can turn on, such as pre-fill photos, post-fill photos. We can dispense into pod style cartridges, meaning you do half of your dispense in the left hole, half of your dispense in the right hole. We can do that outer circle detection that I was talking about earlier, which I'm going to take a detour right now and explain this, since it's a pretty important feature to a lot of customers. So I come over here to my camera calibration and just enable this feature real quick. So, oops, this isn't set up for these styles, so let me do that. There we go. So what you're able to see here is when this feature is enabled, we're measuring both the inner post of the cartridge along with the outer wall. And then we're drawing this little line. What this line is it's pointing to the part of the cartridge that we're going to attempt to place the needle into. So rather than trying to place the needle into the narrowest point, we're going to put it into the widest point. For this particular style of cartridge, that isn't needed, but as you get into cartridges with a much smaller opening between the center post and the outer wall, this is going to become necessary. Okay. Popping back over to configurations, there's a lot of stuff you can configure in here. And you can have multiple configs and load them right here from the sidebar. Okay. That about covers all of the day-to-day GUI functions. There are still some more wizards for doing things like calibrating the pump. For example, you need to have formulated product. It'll ask you how much fluid you want to dispense, anywhere between, fractions of a gram all the way up to 5 grams. You can configure exactly how fast it charges and dispenses out of the pump. And then finally, if you weigh your sample as dispensed from the Vape-Jet system and then type in what it weighed, it will self-calibrate itself to give you the exact dispense volume you're looking for. Anyway, if you have any other questions or want to do a deep dive on anything more technical about the system, please do not hesitate to reach out and set up a one-on-one demo. Thanks again. Talk soon.